Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smarts, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smarts has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third-world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be relent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a microlender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Well, today I am speaking to Wes Towers, who is the founder of Uplift 360, a digital agency that transforms builders and trades' online presence with smarter websites, practical SEO, and measurable growth. A 20-year industry veteran, Wes learned marketing the hard way, on the job, and now shared field-tested insights that help construction businesses and others grow without the fluff. Wes, how are you?
Really well. Thank you, Jared. And I realize you're up nice and early. It's my evening. So on the other side of the planet, people will hear my accent, no doubt.
Exactly. So I'm in the US and you're in Australia. Before we get started, I always do this because I'm a classical and jazz bass player. I'm always interested in the music that people listen to and what's influenced them. So what is your favorite genre of music or style?
Well, my favorite singer just sings at the local bar near me. And I love to get down there on a Sunday. It's kind of a folk, modern pop type folk, I guess you would describe it as, but Luke Biskin is his name. You'll find him on Spotify and all those sorts of platforms. So because I've been there so frequently, we've grown to know each other over the years. So it's always good to know the musos, I think, and it's good to support local artists as well. So yeah, that's my preference.
Yeah. Very cool. No, obviously you have a favorite artist that's really local to you, and so that's really cool. Now, let me ask you, 20-year veteran in this space of digital marketing, what do you feel like has helped you to become so successful throughout your career?
Yeah, it's been a wild journey, really. So I think all of us start with some form of a vision, but to take us from where we sit right now to where we want to be, the middle piece of the journey is so difficult to work through sometimes. So I think it's, as you said, it's been a lot of trial and error and fumbling my way forward. I didn't learn marketing at any course or anything like that. I studied graphic design, multimedia. My first job, it was in a marketing company, and I love that aspect of things, but I also loved the technical aspect of building websites, so the technology, but also the design, which was what I studied. And just fell into the marketing world and just starting my own business. I started with a skill set of understanding design and websites, and I grew to understand how they worked as a marketing tool. But starting my own business was a real wake-up call to figure out how to do things, all the gaps in my knowledge that I had to figure out the hard way. And, I didn't know how to do a client meeting, didn't know how to do quotes and proposals and how to invoice and anything. I knew nothing. So to think back where I started from and where I am now, I'm enjoying the journey. So, but it's a wild journey with AI and everything happening these days.
It's interesting because you use that phrase throughout the book to enjoy the journey, right? As you're writing, and you tell
Yeah.
different stories of successes and challenges and how you stumbled upon certain concepts and how you were put in places where you were challenged to get things done. And I think you guys were working on something and someone hit the wrong button and deleted all your work, and you guys had to go back and go
Yes.
redo it. you know,
Oh, man, don't remind me how horrible that was a terrible, scenario. All these battles that you go through. That project actually so someone accidentally deleted the files that we'd been working on. We were working late at night, but that client isn't now a really good friend, so he often speaks of those fun times back then, starting out in business. The book was written 10 years ago, I think, or maybe just over. So there's no AI or anything in there. I had to
right.
type in the words myself. Every single letter I punched into the keyboard myself. So
Okay.
wrote it the hard way. But
Right,
the
right.
principles in there still apply. They
Yes.
actually are probably more relevant now than they ever were,
Yeah.
curiously enough.
And even with the advantages of AI helping you with writing, you still own the content from the standpoint if you're writing, I'm just talking to anyone who's listening and they're using AI, you really have to take ownership of the content. You should never just have AI generate something and then release it. You should have a framework where AI does maybe research for you or some heavy lifting, but then it's your voice, it's your thoughts, it's your
Yeah.
you're doing the research on quotes and books and other things so that when you're done, it's like this is your work and AI was your assistant and not
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, and not the other way around where you're just like letting AI crank something out and saying, "Oh, that sounds good. Let me just use that." Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's all to do with the thought leadership and that value you can add to the conversation. Because if you just rely upon the tool, it's just collating a bunch of other people's thoughts into something perceived to be new, but it's not really new, is it? It's just regurgitated other people's thoughts and ideas. So you've got to bring
exactly.
your own fresh, unique perspective and also the way in which you communicate too. So your voice, the style in
Yeah.
which you would write needs to be authentically yours. Otherwise, you just fall into the AI slop, as everyone calls it,
Yes.
just that
Yes.
generic stuff that we're all repelled by, really. We
Yeah.
all
Yeah. And we
really,
can tell when it's there, right? They can
yeah,
always
for
tell when it's there.
sure.
Well, let me ask
Yeah,
you this. Your
yeah.
book, The Simple Manifesto, why did you use those terms? The Simple Manifesto.
Yeah, it just felt to me that there was just so much complication in how to do business and more specifically, how to do marketing correctly or effectively. And for a small business operator, it just felt overwhelming to me. So I really do believe the more simplified you can make everything in business, the better off it'll be. Things grow to be complex,
Yeah.
where realistically, when you come at it with fresh eyes, and we've done this even recently in the way in which we do our standard operating procedures,
Yeah.
we've simplified them a lot. But it takes a lot of work to get things so simple,
Yeah.
which is a curious thing. Sometimes people think simplifying things just means you're getting lazy and taking shortcuts, where in actual fact, you're doing the work ahead of time. So you're setting
Right.
up systems and foundations and your messaging and everything in place so those decisions are made and you know where you're headed for future decisions and things become simpler as you progress.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I love the concept because as you're going through, you talk about some of the core aspects of being an entrepreneur, of being someone who's a productive professional. And what's interesting, and as you were talking, I was thinking about this. I can think of several projects or several business things that happened that I had to be a part of that started off really simple, but because of the nature of business and tying various systems together, became extremely complex. However, you have to then work really hard to allow the technology or AI and other things like that to maintain the complexity, but keep the human interface and the overall process simple. And I find
Yeah,
that
that's
to
right.
be the way to take advantage of this concept of keeping things simple because things can get complex, especially in business and around processes and so on. But for us as humans, we still need things to be simple, right? And it takes a lot of hard
Yeah.
work to take a process that was simple, that's becoming complex, to make sure it stays simple. Tell me about your
Yeah.
experience with that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we've just worked through really, the last few years. technology is advancing so fast, and
Yeah.
sometimes things become far more complicated. So all this is a failing of mine to a large degree. All the standard operating procedures were built around what I thought was best. So that wasn't necessarily the best. It was just what I felt was best. And someone
Right.
needs to take leadership and ownership of these things. But when AI hit us all, really, and a few years ago, I realized no one person has all the answers and no one person understands all of what the opportunities might be because it's moving so fast.
Yeah.
Not even the creators of AI understand precisely how it works. So how the hell am little old me going to know the exact things that are the best solutions? And I'm surrounded by technical people, given the nature of our work.
Yeah.
So it was the very first time I leaned upon the team to get their insights of what they're seeing, what they're thinking we could adapt and evolve and change around. And we streamlined a lot. So the systems became a whole lot more simplified for
Yeah.
what we need to do as inputs, but
Yeah.
the technology behind the scenes is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, which is the beauty of technology. So
Exactly.
um, yeah, leaning upon the team to figure out what options we would take and to be nimble enough because I do strongly believe there'll be better options just around the corner. So we
Yeah.
need to stay nimble enough to see those opportunities to
Yeah.
create the same outcomes, but just find better ways of getting it done.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this because it brings up an interesting concept. Because initially, the SOPs are standard operating procedures. You created them because, especially when you're a one man shop and then you add some people to it, you're kind of still used to doing things on your own. And you kind
Yeah.
of do that. But then you get to a point where you realize, you know what? I need to redo this, but I need to get everybody else engaged. What was the energy change in the room for your team when they went from having to operate under standard operating procedures that you created compared to standard operating procedures that you all created together and that they had
Yeah,
a
it was
voice in?
Yeah, far better. And as I said, I wish I had have done it so much sooner. It took a potential mini crisis because the rise of AI has the potential to wipe out businesses. So not that we hit crisis, but it was certainly something on the radar. Everyone's talking about what work looks like. And certainly someone working behind a computer making websites and doing marketing and that sort of thing, a lot of the technical aspects of that is changing and
Yeah,
the way in which people can do stuff themselves. So
yeah,
we just need to bring another higher level of value and get the stuff done faster from a technical standpoint. So, but the biggest reason I wish I had have done it earlier was there was a story which I can tell you.
sure.
I wonder if it's in the book. It probably isn't in the book because it may have happened just after I wrote that. It should have been in there if the timing was right. But, yeah, the scenario where I had a lead developer was fairly early on in business. Yeah, it was midway through the business journey, I suppose.
Okay.
And, I had a lead developer, and I could sense he was getting bored with the work,
Yeah,
frustrated. Not so much frustrated, just bored, just
yeah,
not as engaged as he once was. He'd been with me a little while at that time. A project came along at my desk, I don't know how, for a different sort of project that we'd never done before, and I thought, "This is super technical, I don't know how to do it." I ran it past this guy and said, "Hey, do you know how to do it?" And thinking this might keep him engaged in our company. And he said, "Yes, sure." And I said, "Well, I don't. So can you do the proposal?" And he did. He scoped it all out, did everything. I presented it. We won the job. And 2 weeks into the project, he quit. So
Oh,
I was left with this massive job to take months and it
oh,
nearly
wow.
killed me. We got it done, and the client had no idea of the turmoil I was in with all the late nights and early mornings. I
Sure.
feel as though if you do a proposal and you've committed to something, it's a promise, and I keep my promises. So we delivered and she got a great outcome, but it nearly killed me and nearly it wiped out a lot of revenue from the business because we just simply couldn't take on other jobs.
Yeah,
And so whilst this one job was all consuming, I couldn't do any of the other things I normally do. So it was a real productivity killer.
yeah, yeah.
Taking on this job for all the wrong reasons. And
Right.
it really was not a simple project. It deviated way from my values to a large degree, but it was a lesson learned the hard way. But upon reflection, I probably could have kept that guy engaged who was a brilliant mind, and I understand why he felt a little bit bored with the work. But if I had have engaged him in a higher level of thinking for the business, maybe that would have been enough to keep him enticed and engaged to stay with the
Yeah,
business.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask
So
you, like, Yeah, I was gonna ask
Yeah,
you about that, like, because that gets a little raw, right? Where you work with someone that's really smart, they're on your team, that you have that talent there. You give them something that you think is gonna engage them, but obviously there's an underlying something going on in his head, right? And
yeah,
the way he's seeing the world, he's honored enough to get the proposal done, get it all written up, but then when the project gets started, he leaves. And yet he has the
yeah,
talents to do the work, which leaves you guys kind of in the straits, right? But what
yeah.
was the lesson? I mean, that's a painful one, right? But what was the lesson when it came to managing high performers and really smart people on your team that you took away from that? Or are you still processing through that one?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think there's always upside and downside side with everyone that
Yeah,
you work with. And the reality is the very best people that you work with are likely going to outgrow you. And I've grown to accept that and
yeah,
appreciate that what we're doing might be just a part of their journey. They might want to go on and start an agency that's a competitor to
yeah,
me. And that's perfectly fine because it's part of the process. So I just look at it slightly differently now. I try
yeah,
and keep those types of people engaged as long as I can, and I'll find ways to support them. But I
right.
won't be taking on jobs that are not a good fit for our company, just to do that. And I think your worst team members are probably prepared to stay with you forever. But your very best ones are probably going to leave at some point, and so that's just the nature of building a business. And the other way to look at it is to build. It gets back to the point of having simple systems as well. So then
Yeah,
someone else can take on the project if someone disappears all of a sudden.
yeah,
People get sick or they have disasters, crisis,
right.
things happen, so imagine if you're a small business and one person's away, that's a massive portion percentage of your whole workforce is out of action. A large
Exactly.
company can just weather that, if
Yeah,
it's just one in hundreds, it doesn't really have that big an impact. But for a small business, you've got to have systems in place where someone else can pick up the pieces and run with the project no matter
gotcha.
what happens.
Gotcha, and I appreciate
Yeah.
your honesty there because that's a challenging lesson for all of us, right? As you're striving to build your business, trying to be productive, whether you work for a large corporation and you have a team and you have really smart people that you manage there, or you're a small business owner and you have core resources that are critical to your operations. You have to figure out how to keep them engaged and keep them inspired, or at least make sure that there's others who've been somewhat cross-trained on what
Mm,
they're doing so that if something happens and that person decides to not come in the next day and move on, you still are able to keep operations going, which is very challenging. So
yeah.
thank you for that answer. So let me ask you this for yourself. As you get busier in doing your work when you're building a business, because at first it's like you have one or two clients, things are good. But when you get more clients and more things going on, there's still a part of you that has to operate your business from a productive standpoint, which requires what we call deep work, right? Like strategic thinking, working on the business. How do you balance that deep work with the consistent demands of client expectations and delivering while at the same time remaining grounded and not burning yourself out?
Yeah, it can be challenging, and I think to think of it as seasons. So, particularly when you're starting out and it's just yourself and maybe you hire someone to help out, there's just so much time investment to get things moving. But the way to look at it is you're trying to create momentum, and that momentum should hopefully get to a point where it's self-sufficient and carrying itself forward if you build right.
Right,
So the way I look at it is if you get the right people to support the different tasks, and particularly the tasks that you either don't want to do or are
right.
just time consuming repetitive tasks that are easily done by somebody else, they're the ideal to delegate off it as soon as you can. So you can focus on those things that only you can probably do, the higher level of thinking, the more meaningful, that deep work that is required. And it's not as if it stops either.
Yes.
that level of work will always be required from the founder of any business,
Yes.
who's involved in the business. Yeah, it's about prioritizing what's important and building systems that can be delegated out, tasks can be delegated nice and easily.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that's really, really important. And let me ask you this one too. What are your go-to habits or systems for staying productive and avoiding burnout when you're running multiple client projects simultaneously?
Yeah, so as a young man, I could get away with not looking after my health.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
a slightly older now, depends on who I'm speaking to, whether I'm old or young, but I'm older than I was, let's say. So things like looking after my health have had a tremendous impact on my performance and productivity and stress levels, making sure I get to the gym
Yep.
frequently, eating healthier than I once did, not staying up so late as a young man. You can burn the candle at both ends. So just living a more stable, centered life, thinking about things a little bit differently, it's particularly when you have young kids, it's just there's so many demands.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
kids are older now, so it's a different season of life, but I'm really thankful that I did have I built the business in a way that I could spend lots of time with the kids when they were young because it does fly by. Everyone says
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
now that, my eldest is 20, I really do know what they
It
mean. You
flies
kind
by.
of yeah, yeah, you believe it. You kind of believe everyone telling you it flies by. Yeah, yeah, I know it flies by, but when it happens, you go, "Wow,
Yeah, that was
it
quick. That's
does
just
fly
like,
by."
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. No,
Have you got kids yourself?
I do, and mine are like 35, getting ready to be 36 and 32. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
so
you know the
it
journey.
it flew by. It flew by. It's like you relish the days of when you could go to the park or go to the movies together when they were small and you hang out, and then it's like, wow, they're taller than you are, they're smarter than you are in some areas, and you're like, what the world? What happened?
Yeah, I know. I know. Well, my eldest has just started working with me 1 day a week, which is the biggest
Oh, that's
blessing.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because you think you will hardly see them once they become adults and they're off doing their own things, moving out and all that kind of stuff. So it's good we get to hang out 1 day a week. So,
That's really
yeah.
cool. That's really cool when you get to do that. Well, I love the system, right? Because some people will respond with, "Well, I use this tool or I use that or a process or this framework." But the true answer is what you gave, which is as you get busier, you have to become extremely strategic about your health.
Yeah.
You have to manage your energy. Like it's really not anymore at that level, you're not really focused on time management anymore. You're focused on
Yeah.
priority management and you're focused on your
Yeah.
energy management because some tasks may take you 2 or 3 hours to get done, some tasks may take you 30 minutes. But if, hey, I have to do that task between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. because that's when I have the highest amount of energy and clear thinking, then it's no longer about just, again, time management and am I getting all these things
Mm.
done on my list? It's, am I getting the most important things done and am I in the most optimal state in which I can get
Yeah.
those things done? Do you find
Yeah,
that to
for
be true?
sure. Yeah, absolutely. And it gets even to the different types of work that I need to do. If I can batch the creative kind of thinking works together, they're
Yeah.
far more effective. And then the
Yes.
more technical things and at a different time.
Yes.
Typically for me, the creative works are better served in the morning, and the more technical might be mid afternoon. And I'm pretty useless thinking toward the back end of the afternoon.
Yeah. You require that much thinking,
So
right? You
yeah,
just
I'm
gotta
an early
follow the
starter.
process. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't gotta
Yeah,
follow the
yeah.
process.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of running your own business. You call the shots, and you can set up the day to serve you, but the best way you can. So that's a big plus. And you don't initially you don't figure out this stuff that works best. You trial and error, and you kind of figure out a rhythm that works for your own circumstances.
Yeah, yeah, that's really smart and makes a lot of sense. So let me ask you one last question, and this again is kind of related to your book. And the book is The Simple Manifesto: Marketing Principles to Save You Time, Increase Profits, and Create Your Dream Business in a Snap. Now, in your book, what is one piece of productivity advice you wish every trade business or owner knew before they started investing in marketing and digital growth?
Yeah, wow. There's so many, but I think getting the standpoint right. So get really, really clear on your own unique position. And so that should be the driver for all your marketing messages. Everything needs to have a similar message, like the same thrust of what you want to say, what makes you stand out in the industry that you're in. And so thinking about what is the general accepted format for your industry and what do you do slightly different to that is what really matters. And sometimes it's hard for us to identify that until we have a conversation with someone who can draw that out of them. And that's
Right,
kind of a big aspect of what we do now, that human side, the human intelligence to understand exactly
right.
what drives a founder, because a business is usually a reflection of the founder's own personal values and convictions.
Yeah,
In the type of businesses we work with anyway. Maybe the massive multinational companies, it's not so much, but a founder-led business is certainly that way. So to draw out of them what really matters to them, and then
yeah,
use that as levers in marketing,
yes,
it makes them really distinct. I think that's the key to everything. No matter what the tools are, the technologies and everything will change, but your values and convictions of why you do business or what you think matters,
yes.
that they will remain throughout the journey of your whole business life.
Exactly, exactly. I really love that in the book because that's one of the first things you talk about in the book is,
Yeah.
what is your stance? Like, how do you see yourself? How do you position yourself? And you just can't have a generic statement about what you do. You really have to figure out what do you stand for. And I think one of the best ways to do that, if you feel like I'm not sure, is ask some of your current customers, why did you hire me? What was it about me that you selected me to help you with this project? And even ask your family members or friends that know you really well. And then that kind of helps you do your own 360-degree review.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah,
can
for
give you
sure.
some insight into, well, what is it that I stand for? I think I know what I stand for, but as one of my friends, Les Brown and Willie Jolly would say, you can't read the label if you're inside the jar.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. That's so true. That's brilliant. I'm gonna have to write that. Who says that? I'll write. I'll get.
Willie Jolly, who's a professional speaker, and Les Brown, they both say
Les Brown. Yeah,
yeah, and,
yeah,
you cannot read the label if you're inside the jar. Well, Wes,
yeah.
this has been a great conversation. I love your book. Where can people learn more about you and where people can find out about your book?
Yeah, so uplift360.com.au is our company's website.
Okay.
.au for an Australian website, but we do serve clients all around the world. You'll see that if you did visit the website, you'll see lots of brands that we work with. And the
Yes.
book, it's on Amazon. All book stores you can get it in, but Amazon's the most popular place where it's sold, the paperback or the ebook.
Exactly, exactly. Well, listen, Wes, thank you so much for being a guest on the Productivity Smarts podcast. Greatly enjoyed the book and our conversation.
Thanks, Gerald. It's been brilliant.
If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.